record so we don't lose today's message. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tracy Sanderson, and I'll be your host for VRM Insider for the month of October. And today we are very excited to have some very special guests back with us. We have the folks from Safely. And if you aren't familiar with Safely or are looking forward to learn a little bit more, just hold on tight. We're going to dive right into it in just a moment. We want to thank everybody for taking a moment out of their very busy schedule. We know you guys are busy. I know for many of you, your seasons have just started to slow down, which we're delighted about. And I think that since it is October and right butting up against Halloween in just a few days, that is a perfect time to talk about some pretty scary stuff. And that is guest and maybe some not so wonderful and some pretty scary guest experiences that Louie and Carrie are going to share with us in a few minutes, and how you can go about protecting your bookings, your assets, and just making sure that your homeowners are well taken care of, and even a little bit about some of the programs that they offer and how that can even help you in your owner retention or owner acquisition. So those are some things we're going to be talking about today. I have with me Carrie Marissa. And Carrie is the head of sales and business development over at safely.com. We also have us Louie King, and Louie is the COO at Safely. If anybody has any questions during today's webinar, there is a Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen. And so you are welcome to hit that at any time and ask a question. If it's an appropriate point in time during the webinar, I will just interrupt the guys and say, hey, we got a question. If it doesn't quite fit in the flow, we'll hold those questions till the end. So don't go away anywhere at the end. And there's gonna be some other reasons you might want to stick around to the end as well. And we always like to do Q&As at the end. So we'll definitely leave time open for that. All right, so any other housekeeping? This is being recorded. It will be available for replay. It'll be up probably tomorrow. We'll get that out in an email to everyone, Monday at the latest. And of course, if you have any questions, Carrie and Louie will be offering their direct contact information at the end of the webinar, I'm sure as well. So we will make sure you have that information in your hands. So without further ado, Carrie, Louie, don't scare us too bad.
Excellent. Are you seeing my screen, Lou? It's sharing.
I see a big elephant. That's not too scary, but it's in a living room, so it might get scary fast.
And that was an excellent introduction, Tracy. You left nothing out, and timely and germane. Thank you very much. So we're going to talk about guest screening and how to use insurance to recruit more homeowners, protect your direct bookings, and even other bookings, and how some property managers have been more successful than others in growing their business because the way they do things, and just having a little fun. We're going to discuss specifically, one of the things is how to keep those snidleys, out of your homes. This was on one of our conferences, and unfortunately I had to wear a very cheesy mustache, and people did the picture, and I looked like Snidely Whiplash, and I was going for Wyatt Earp, so it didn't work out very well. So we are Safely. We're a tech-enabled insurance company based in Atlanta with clients all across the country. We've insured over $60 billion in liability for our property managers. And while we'll focus on not Safely things here, excuse me, I just wanted to quickly introduce that. So when we talk about the agenda or what we're going to cover, we're going to focus on talking about that homeowner acquisition opportunity, the pitfalls of why some PMs, might not be winning as many homeowners as they would like to, those horror stories and the cost of friction that Tracy mentioned, excuse me, and how some other high growth property managers have had to do it themselves. And then we have a little fun thing at the end, so stay for the Q&A. We know these are unique times. You guys are all experiencing it, and everything happening in this market right now with, changes. There's a big homeowner shuffle. People are selling, new people are buying. Different homeowners have tried it themselves and are looking for professional property managers like you. So there is a big opportunity, as well as people are looking to, while it's been great how the big OTAs have grown the whole pie, so to speak, at the same time, they take a big chunk of that pie, and we're looking at how you might grow your direct bookings, but still protect yourself in that process. And that opportunity to recruit homes, there are, some people recently were a little too small, didn't have the technology, didn't have the staff, didn't have the scale to seize that opportunity. And while at the other side, there's some of these large, turned into corporate profit center only type structures that might have lost the common touch. But most of you do fall in this opportunity zone where, with having VRM and having that system and their partners, you have an ability to expand your business and grow more rapidly. And most of you do fit into that. Now, one of the challenges is the competition's fierce. This is just picking one of our, the many great destinations across the country. In Georgia, this is Blue Ridge, Georgia, and you see how many property managers are there. And they're all competing, or most of them are competing for those same homeowners, the higher value homeowners, the bigger homes, et cetera. Yeah, some might have their niche, but in general, it's a very competitive market. And so PMs need to find ways to differentiate themselves. The other thing is just that one home is very profitable to you. I don't need to tell you that, but this is, some industry data on national averages of what that margin is to you, the commissions, that lifetime value of that one homeowner is to you. So it's very important to retain them and to add new ones, or to add those higher end ones that grow this number. We talk about the opportunities to grow your business, it really falls into a handful of things. There might be some others I missed, but this is what it comes down to. How do you grow organically? Well, some people have turned those shared homes into long-term homes into short-term homes, or they've turned shared homes where they had multiple PMs into exclusives because they were a better provider for that homeowner, and the homeowner said, I'm only going to go with them. Just as I showed on that previous page, you got to win from the competition down the street. And as I talked about that homeowner shuffle, how do you convince those first-time homeowners to choose you? And as I mentioned, you can acquire a higher quality of home. Get rid of those 10 at the bottom, or the 5 that are a pain in the butt to deal with, and acquire and be at the right level of homes that are for you. We hear people acquire businesses, and some PMs take over the management, or at least exclusive rights to manage entire buildings. So there are a lot of different ways to think about how you grow your home. This is just some examples of some clients have done that, large and small. They started with 5 properties, and in a month grew to 30 because they were able to take over a building. They were able to compete down the street, and just in a very short time from starting up, they grew to 30 homes. Or the next one, just added some new features to differentiate himself from a competitive market in Marco Island, and quickly grew from 100 to 140. Well, that's 40% growth in a short period of time. This is an example of one that started out small, and they have hundreds, if not 1,000 long-term ones in their inventory, and they're slowly converting them to short-term and seeing a better economic return on that. Other ones, like I mentioned, these guys, Panhandle, have taken over entire buildings and got an exclusive right. So they add 100, 200, 300 properties almost at a time. So
Terry, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Just so everybody on this webinar knows, if you're watching the replay as well, that there are several on this screen that are VRM clients. I won't say which ones because I don't personally have their permission to say that. They have been on previous episodes, so you could go rewind and watch some older webinars with Safely, like from
If
last
you're
year.
okay with me saying, I think I have their permission to say.
Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, so for certain Island Escapes is and Panhandle Getaways. So thank you.
That's
I
right.
usually put that back in there and I didn't this time, Tracy. Thanks for catching that.
Yeah, and there is, I believe it is from our 2020 webinar with Safely. I believe David from Island Escapes was on the webinar. So if you wanted to hear from a VRM client, that's pretty easy to access. And these guys, they love this product. And I know that any of them would be happy to, that our VRM clients would be happy to talk to you about that. If
Yeah,
this is
and both
something you
those
need
people I
information.
know, very, very well, and they'd be happy to talk to you about anything about our products. So absolutely, thank you. And I'm happy to make those introductions as well. Or Tracy can. So awesome. Thanks. Good catch. But we're going to come back to those guys in a minute, those companies in a minute. So why might some companies not be able to seize on those opportunities? We like to think that, when you're meeting with a new homeowner, yeah, they ask you 50 questions and you wonder when they're going to stop asking me questions, but it boils down to about 4. Are you going to make me money? And you have your pitch for that. Are you going to take care of my place? And you have your pitch for that. Here's my cleaning crew, here's my maintenance crew, etc. And then they're going to say, who's staying in my house and what happens when something goes wrong? And that's where most PMs fail to give those new homeowners that comfort level of what they're doing by the solutions they choose to answer those questions. And it makes it much harder to acquire those. So, 4 questions. Are you going to make me money? Are you going to take care of my place? Who's staying in my house? What happens when something goes wrong?
Because this is where it's scary, right? This is where it gets scary for homeowners, especially new homeowners with a property that they're looking to do short-term rentals. That is, you're talking about a large piece of investment, either that they've bought themselves or inherited in some way, or there's different avenues. But it's, who's staying in my house? Like, what's going to happen to my beautiful artwork? What's going to happen to my new couch? All of these things that, what if somebody gets hurt? These pieces of questions that is, as a consumer, that has to be super scary.
Yep, absolutely. And frankly, the traditional ways of that people have operated aren't the best solutions anymore. And, frankly, in the past, some people talk to them extensively, but with your schedules, time, etc., that's not possible. It starts to get subjective. You can open yourself up to discriminatory complaints or adverse selection. So that gut feel, don't like how Jane sounds, but Bob sounds okay, frankly, isn't really actionable anymore in our current market society. And it's not very efficient. And even some of the online things, you can go out and do a Facebook search and web search, but even that stuff can, it is very limited in how actionable it is without opening yourself up to some problems. We know that some of the vendors, the big OTAs, they have very inconsistent coverage for you. Airbnb has some coverage. At the same time, it's a guest policy, favors the guest, involves the guest, upsets the guest. As soon as the guest isn't cooperative, it can leave the PM spending months trying to get a $300 lamp fix. VRBO doesn't, they have some strange coverages. They have a secondary bodily injury, but they're coming after you first. So that doesn't really protect you or protect your general liabilities, et cetera. And they will cover damage to the neighboring unit, but not your unit or your house. They do offer what I call a more of a commodity waiver. One of the, I won't specifically say what that is. These things tend to be, optional to the guest, and they tend to be guest accident only. As soon as it's not an accident and the guest is uncooperative, it makes it more difficult to get protected and covered than I know you would like. And then now we jump to your direct bookings. Well, they don't even have, well, those last 2 protections were limited, at least it was something. what do you have on your direct bookings? And we know you want to grow your direct bookings. There's more money in it for you. It's less hassles with the other dealing with those other companies, much higher revenue, not having to go through the OTAs. But now it leaves you totally exposed. So they have no plan on their direct bookings. The traditional options in protecting yourself. So we talk a little bit about not knowing who's staying there, but the traditional options in protecting yourself are pretty limited. The damage deposits, they suppress bookings because they're too high, or people don't want to lay out that other money. It's frankly not even high enough to cover any real damage anyway. Credit cards get chargebacks. Some people like to do what we call, is a bad term in the industry, self-insure. It can be a revenue stream. I think it's a misplaced revenue stream. I keep wanting to get my t-shirts of 20 reasons why self-insuring's ripping off your homeowners, because I think there's better ways to get that value from your homeowners. In this protection, give them something of real value and significant value. And that's what even the ones that we mentioned already were VRM clients, they both self-insured, and it was a big revenue stream. And in changing that, it actually, their overall company became much healthier and a much better risk profile. They could grow at more accelerated rate, and overall their company was better than trying to earn a few extra dollars from the self-insuring. And then the commodity waivers, again, these tend to be accident only. So as soon as it's not an accident, the dog, the pet, the dog, the smoking, the party, etc., you're not covered anyway. If they don't cooperate, you're not covered. And so they have gaps. They also fail to protect the revenue from a travel perspective. They don't offer a travel insurance product. And there are a lot of good options out there. Rental Guardian has good travel. CSA has a good travel, or Generali. Red Sky has some really unique products. Safely has a great product. But there are really good travel products out there that you need to consider to protect your revenue when things happen. That guest can't come and you're not fighting. Maybe you kept their money, maybe you didn't, but that causes all kinds of issues in the bookings. All right, let's have a little fun. So homeowners do assume the worst as you're trying to talk to them, and frankly, maybe they should. Now, yes, this doesn't happen every reservation, or thank goodness, only a few small percentage of the time, but it does happen, and we're going to talk about that. Some of these things that these property managers in not screening, when you look at some screening services that are out there, here are the things that might be caught. And hopefully these things would scare you. You have unlawful distribution, and controlled substance, theft by deception. Well, you know what, that thief in there, false reports. So they're somebody they're not. Fraudulent use of a credit card. Okay, well, that'd been nice to know ahead of time. Burglary. Yeah, that's another one nice to know ahead of time. And my all-time favorite, Snidely doing the kidnapping. Yeah, these are the people sometimes that are trying to get in your place that you do not know that that's what's happening. Maybe they're good people now. Maybe this was one-offs or whatever, but your homeowners would probably be scared to death by that. And this is just saying, here's these are real things. These are the warrants and items on there that, those are real scenarios, not maybe it could happen. So how bad can it really be? Well, this very common. You hear the stories, you go to VRMA events and they talk about, how do you make your place safer? But at the end of the day, stuff happens. People slip and fall. Well, we're a very litigious society. They're going to be suing the homeowner. And if that's not working, or they can bring the PM into it, they're going to sue the PM. So does your coverage protect both those? And or how do you even protect that coverage? Everybody loves a party. Problem is, it's not one thing that gets broken when a party happens. It's 8 things, and it really adds up. So is your solution sufficient to protect that? There's still thieves out there. People, will grab expensive, valuable items. They can fit it in their trunk. Stuff happens. Everybody loves their dogs, but they aren't great house pets in other people's homes. They're comfortable and familiar in your home, but they tend to do damage in vacation homes. How do you protect that? And then my favorite sort of, that's stupidity. I mean, people just do crazy things when they're on vacation, drinking, having fun. There was a situation we were familiar with a rooftop skier, and then Puff the Magic Dragon. Hey, I'm not passing any judgment on it, and it's legal in, geez, I don't know how many, 10, 15 states now, but there are ramifications of it. The smoking causes issues. In this particular case, someone put their ashes out in a trash can and caused a fire that caused over $120,000 of damage. So these instances are real and they do happen. Thank goodness not all the time, but we just like to have a little fun and share that, not trying to do a Halloween scare. But what would you do when that happens? And by not having the right solutions, what is that cost? Say over and above that very real cost of lost income, the time to fix it, the materials themselves, dealing with all that stuff also has a very, I call it that cost of friction. Your staff is upset, they're dealing with stuff, you lose a staff member, you lose a homeowner over it because you say, hey, homeowner, sorry, wasn't an accident, so this solution's not covering it, I need your insurance to cover it. And they're going to say, heck with you, I'm going somewhere else. But that has, as we saw the value of a homeowner, that has a very real cost. Some of those other solutions have administrative costs. Fighting and dealing with the OTAs has a cost. Getting a bad review and having bad reviews because you try to get money from a guest has a very real cost. You got to think about that too. It all adds up to you.
I was actually thinking about even the next guest, right? Like if I rolled up to a vacation rental excited about our vacation and Puff the Magic Dragon had been there before me and that had not been mitigated yet, I would be hot. Like I would be super upset bringing my family into a situation like that, and then so now you've got another problem because it's not just guest A, now you're dealing with guest B too, that wants to leave a nasty review and I want to be moved units or whatever. So it seems like it can be a reciprocating problem. Like a drip in a pool, it can get bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah. So let's go back to these people and these companies we mentioned before, and what did they do differently? Well, they were able to answer those two key questions. Who's staying in my house and what happens when something goes wrong? How are they able to answer that? Well, they screened their guests. They turned these internet strangers into trusted guests. They look for identity verification. So they confirmed that that's a valid name, address, date of birth. And those can be without even needing a picture ID. And now there's starting to be services where you can easily collect that picture ID, but do an identity verification. They're checking watch lists. They're checking sex offender registries. They're looking for felons and this array of felons, and they're making educated. The last one, they have shared databases of bad guests across using some other network and group of people to have that, to find out about those bad guests. And they're making educated, actionable assessments on these because frankly, these types of criteria are actually unprotected classes and you can take action on them. You can cancel on that felon. You do not have to allow that felon in your home. So they screen their guests and try to keep out those worst guests. So they answer who's staying in there and at least keeping out those worst guests. And as you can imagine, there is a real value at that. Those homeowners are going to be put at ease. They're not worried about, because they might be coming down at the end of the season or in the season, and it creeps out little Johnny because he's wondering who's been sleeping in his bed, and so it gives them peace of mind. You're keeping those best guests in there and keeping out the worst, so you don't have that drip effect that Tracy was just mentioning. A lot of times, homeowners associations, be it in buildings or just developments, or a lot of communities are starting to require that. So, there could be other requirements. So you should be aware of what services are out there. And frankly, this is a big thing. How do you protect your neighbors and be part of that community? We're all seeing it, dealing with it, hearing about how the one bad apple's spoiling it for the rest of us because all the towns, et cetera, are trying to have ordinances around short-term rentals, and that affects our whole industry. That affects you directly, but you can all do your little part to minimize those impacts. And it's still going to happen, but you can minimize those impacts and make the industry healthier. They, in doing those screenings, they are able to identify those worst types of people. Like I said, those people that I did mention, I won't spend a lot of time specifically on safely, but those were all people identified by safely and our background screening, on just obviously a handful of examples. And then even better, those services like ours can extend and help you do the process to legally cancel. So you won't even have to interact with that guest and feel uncomfortable and deal with it. So in all these cases, safely then contacted the guest, followed the proper procedures, and helped the PM decline it without some awkward, uncomfortable, strange things happening. All these PMs we're talking about, have robust damage solutions. They have a high amount of coverage, not just, $1,500 or $1,000. They have bodily injury solutions. So when someone does get hurt, and they have solutions that cover not just that accidental damage, but we even cover when it's not an accident. So, guest caused damage type solutions. And there are guest caused damage solutions out there. So you have to find one, not as just an accident only, but is just about any kind of guest caused damage. Because at the end of the day, your homeowner doesn't care whether it was an accident or not. They're just going to expect you to get it taken care of and expect you to get it fixed. And when you can't do that, it's going to lead to upsets, that friction, and affect you personally, financially, et cetera. So they have real solutions. They removed all that friction that I keep mentioning. They're not hassling with OTAs, so their team's more efficient and effective. They've made their homeowners happy. They're not arguing and fighting with guests about damage because their solutions don't really involve the guest in that claims process. At the end of the day, they're protecting the guests from themselves. You're not having to put a damage deposit that has can impact your bookings and have that high basket size. I like to talk about guests have that private home anxiety. What it's, Tracy, what are the homeowner PM, what's she going to blame me for? What's she going to charge me for? And I'm staying in her vacation house, but what am I going to get blamed for? I like to know that there's some solution there for me. They offer travel insurance. This is a good peace of mind thing. This is always optional to the guest, or usually optional to the guest. There's been some that have tried to work out to cancel any reasons and make everybody get it. But usually this is optional to the guest. But at least now you've said, hey, look, you better get this because we get storms here, we get these things happen, whatever else might be going on. At least then when you hang on to their down payment, you did the right thing. Essentially, their programs have all those benefits. They're going to cover accidents, non-accidents. They're going to cover bodily injury. They're not fighting with their homeowners. They're not fighting with their guests. They're not fighting with the OTAs. They've eliminated any of these other cumbersome administrative tasks. At the end of the day, they're really, able to acquire a lot more homes, delight their homeowners, frankly, delight their guests, and protect themselves better in all the channels. Being able to easily, have materials and marketing materials that can describe that to those guests or to those homeowners and even to the guests, but describe that to them so they feel comfortable choosing you. They wow their prospects. And just quickly, well, of course, Safely does offer some of these things. We do have a robust screening process. We do have a range of products, with up to very high limits. with 100,000, 500, or a million, and they do include bodily injury. So we have robust limits, and we do protect everybody. We don't just protect the guests. We protect the guests, the homeowner, and the property manager. So guys are all protected, and that makes it a nice combination to compete. But there are other solutions out there as well that you can explore. That's really it. Happy to answer questions now, and I think what we said is if you send me your information, and just for frankly being on here, but we'd love to chat with you more about Safely afterwards. But if you email me at this address, I'll send you one of our cool Safely tumblers, and hopefully we can use that to have a conversation about Safely over coffee in the next week or two. All right.
Well, I do not see any questions in the chat box yet, but just to remind everybody, that is your Q&A button. If you hover on your screen, you should see it down at the bottom of your screen. I have a quick question, because I feel like as a property manager, I would definitely ask this question: is if I were using some of your products, first of all, how long does it take to get through the initial setup process? Like, what's the paperwork involved? How long does that normally take? And then on the other side of it, if I were to have some kind of claim, how long does that process normally take? What's the steps involved? Do I fill something out online? Do I have to call in? Like, what are the steps, and how long until there's a money exchange?
Yeah, two perfect questions. We know how busy you are, and these things can sound great. You say, I just don't have the time to do it. We recognized that, frankly, years ago, and decided both of those things were items we prioritized to make as easy as possible. So the setup is really a couple things. You'll pick the policy you'd want with us and sign a service agreement that's actually not even long-term commitment. So it's just more that you read everything that we've explained to you, and this is your coverage level. So pretty straightforward, simple service agreement. The setup is great. We're integrated with VRM, so we love that. It entails just a couple things. For the background screening, we'll give you a couple sentences that go in your terms and conditions. You'll get us an activation, like an API type token. That probably takes 5 minutes. And then the largest effort, while not very cumbersome, is setting up your fees. So deciding this is the fee on these homes that I want to charge. And so that can be a half hour to a few hours, depending on if you pick multiple policies and customize, et cetera. We're talking about, hours, not days and weeks, like some more complex software integrations can be, but very simple. Tracy has helped us, and we have instructional snapshots and can say, here's how others have done it. Here's some of your options for you. So we make that very simple. And then the claims, we kind of flipped this on its head, and we aren't in the claims denial business. If I'm going to cover accidental damage and non-accidental damage, well, then I better expect claims. And so I want it to be easy on you, and I want it to be easy on us. So we made it a 5-minute process, one page form. Actually, it's more like a half a page. You're putting in an amount, a description, a couple yes, no buttons, and add your photos and or your invoice. We take internal invoices. You don't have to go to an external plumber. And like 5 minutes, photos, invoice, description, amount, and submit it. We give you 60 days to file a claim. I think Airbnb might give you till that next guest walks in, which can be very restrictive. And we give you, most claims are resolved in under a week, and small claims are internal target when we usually hit it. Small claims are resolved in 1 business day. Usually you're getting the money a day or two later through, an auto draft, direct deposit type thing. So the majority of your claims, you're going to get your money in a couple of days. Take 5 minutes, you're going to get your money fast. So it's pretty extraordinary. Thank you for that, Tracy.
Yeah, that's a wow. I mean, that's really fast. I mean, gosh, anybody who's ever filed, I have never had to file any kind of property management claim, but I know how long it takes just with my car insurance. So
One last thing that is critical on that, and why it's so fast and why it doesn't get delayed as well, is that I don't involve the guest in that claims process. So they can't void it. They can't, say, oh, I didn't do that and void it. Because remember, I've covered your homeowner as well. So, them saying that they didn't do it wouldn't impact it. So they're not in that claim submission.
which
That speeds it
Which,
up.
Carrie, I think that's really, I think it, just say that one more time. I think that to me is like the big thing about Safely that is just so amazing is whom is protected. So just say it one more time.
So it's not just a guest policy. We protect the guest, the homeowner, and the property manager. All three are additionally insured. So if you got sued, we'd actually step in front of your general liability. We're a primary coverage. We're always defending first, and we protect that homeowner and both from liability and that damage. And then we do protect the guests. They're getting injured. We could cover their medical expenses, or if something did go haywire in the house and just an accidental flood and damage their stuff's covered. Everybody's protected. And like I said, we cover those accidents, but even that malicious, deliberate damage. So even if they brought a pet, threw a party, smoked in the unit, threw the couch in the pool, that guest caused damage is still going to be covered because I've protected the homeowner. We've protected the homeowner.
Awesome. There was a question from Chris, and this is a very, very scary question. Like talk about, this would be on my list of horror films. Would be, does your policy cover bed bugs?
So a great question. Ours currently does not. We have a partner that's an incremental service that could cover bed bugs, but our explicit one right now currently does not. But we have a incremental partnership that can do that.
Okay. Whew, scary. I might not be able to sleep tonight. All right. It's not in actually the Q&A, but in the chat window, Anne has asked about insurance companies. You mentioned that, which I think she's referencing travel insurance. And you did talk about that earlier. And for VRM, we have multiple integration partners that integrate with our software. And you mentioned a few of those. So do you want to just maybe briefly mention those again?
Wait, which one again? Sorry.
He's asking, what insurance company do you like the most and why for travel insurance?
For travel insurance. and I don't know if Louis can still speak, but I will say, there's a couple different things. Some don't cover COVID as a reason. So finding one that does that, finding one that, it depends on your specific market, because some have specialized programs like Fun and Sun. So you could even cancel if it's going to be rainy. So figuring out sort of what's the most frequent likelihood of the cancellations and having a solution like that, it can be really nice. So there are these customized ones that can work. I think overall, when I hear Red Sky with those customized the most, I hear, overall Rental Guardian has a nice product, and Safely, our product's extremely competitive and covers some things that others don't.
And I'd also just add that there are, when you're looking at the travel insurance, there are two different types. There's the cancel for any reason, or CFAR, which has become really popular the last couple of years. So that's just if you want to, if a guest wants to cancel just because they don't like the way the wind's blowing one day, they can cancel for whatever reason. Those are typically more expensive. So they're charging typically somewhere around from 12 to maybe 14 or 15% of the rental rate, and the guests will get back 75% of what they're covering. And then there's a more called traditional plan, which is typically around somewhere between 7 to 9%, depending on the provider. And it'll cover about 100% of the rental for that guest, but it has to be a covered reason. So for example, if they do actually, they have to get sick, or there has to be, say, a hurricane evacuation. But as Carrie said, just check to see whether COVID is covered in that. That's still an issue. Some policies cover COVID, others have a pandemic exclusion. So I just want to check those out with any of the providers.
Yeah, Rental Guardian, that's a sister company for VRM. So there's some, some special connections there. Then there's, we have connections with Generali, which / CSA, just depending on which you like to call them. And Red Sky, as we've mentioned here, and I'm missing another big one.
Yeah.
But we have,
those tend to be the biggest, right?
yeah, and then we have a strong integration partnerships with those, and a long history as well. So if any of our clients, if VRM clients has questions specific about that, we'd be happy to, take that offline and make any additional introductions if needed. But Carrie and Louis bring up some really great points about what to look for, but really to make sure you can find something that fits your needs and have those conversations.
And I do see one question in there about whether Safely's providing travel insurance. Carrie mentioned, yes, we are. However, we don't have the integrated solution with VRM yet. So hopefully in the coming months.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, one thing, I'm happy to answer other questions, but I forgot to mention, we wasn't sure if Louis was going to be able to do it. We let him pull this up. We'd like to do a little raffle too, just for participating, and we have a Amazon gift card and for the winners. So he can do his raffle, see who our lucky winners are for participating. And like I said, you can email me at that address, and I can send you your Yeti box. That goes to anybody, not just the raffle winner.
Awesome. Here we go.
Okay,
Spinning
great.
the wheel.
Yeah, great. Can everyone see it? So there's one person that I'd not include. Kevin Gore, I'm sorry, as a VRM person, I can't include you. So sorry on that one. And this is for a $100 Amazon gift card.
Woo!
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hey, Lynn, if you wouldn't mind just dropping your email into the chat box for us, then we'll be happy to send you that Amazon gift card. We're going to do one more. Okay, and Sheila. So again, Sheila, if you could drop your email into the chat, I'll be happy to do that, or I'll follow up with Tracy after as well. Okay, congrats, guys.
Awesome. Well, that was a way to take the horror, scary experience and turn it into something a little bit more fun and exciting. So thank you for ending on a positive note, so we don't have to all go home thinking about those other things. There was one other question, and I'd love to get to it. And this is, I think, a loaded question. And I think Kevin had asked it, is a little bit of like, what's your pricing structure look like? So what would your response be to that?
Yeah, we on our lower end, we're just talking some of our waivers. They might start around $5 a night, and then you can get into $1 million policies that are in the high teens per night ballpark. But we then work with that PM and VRM. We usually customize that into a flat rate so it works better in the accounting systems and pushing to the channels, et cetera. But just ballpark, that's a good way to think about it. And we have about 15 different policies trying to meet different needs, like this, where you might have just a lower damage and a bodily injury. You might have just damage. You might have a high damage and high bodily injury and a high contents coverage. So we have about 15 different policies. And, like I said, they range from $5 a night to $18 a night, depending on the coverage. And we work with you to customize those.
Awesome. So the best course of action, if somebody was curious about some of the specific products and some pricing or a bundle of pricing, is just to get up with you,
Yep. Email
appointment,
me.
get
Email
their
me.
free Yeti.
Get your free Yeti. We'll set up a time that works for you. And I've been running around crazy at 8 or 9 different conferences, and I don't have one for 3 weeks. So this is perfect time. The next couple of weeks are awesome times, and I have lots of flexibility. So I will meet at your convenience and answer all your questions, go through that pricing, introduce you to clients if needed. I see that we do have one on the call actually. So she's usually happy to text and tell you about us. So always able to do that. That's the best way. So Carrie at safely.com or Carrie.Marisa at safely.com. Both those will find their way to me. And we'll make it happen.
And I will be sure that Carrie's email address is in the blog post that will have the replay. So we'll make sure that that is in there. So whether you get access to that from the admin console or whether you get it in the email, you can, that email address will be right there. You don't have to go searching back for it. And I had another question and now it's flittered right out of my brain. When you guys are working with our clients, you had it on your screen, you kind of went past it fast. We had these specialized kind of branded materials. Can you talk a little bit about that and providing that for our clients?
Oh yeah. We have a brochure that we provide electronically and in paper copy that both explains the coverages and examples and explains the background service. We put your brand on it, your logo, your contact info. So that goes directly into your acquisition toolbox, and is really great to use to answer those questions and say, yeah, this is real. This is who I use. And this is why, we can answer those questions for you. And our clients love that brochure. We love providing it to them. Our client that's on here orders them quite frequently in large volumes and uses them in all her different locations to have those conversations with prospects. And it's a very effective tool to help win those homeowners.
Awesome. So what a great way to differentiate yourself, especially in a concentrated market, to have a tool like Safely offers. And then they're going to actually give you the branded material that's going to have your logo on it and be able to put it in the hands of prospective homeowners, or even like we said earlier about homeowner retention, keeping those homeowners there. So that's awesome. Let's see. Any other questions? I am looking. I don't see anything that we didn't already cover. All right. Any last closing comments or thoughts, Louis or Carrie?
Yeah, just last thing. Thank you so much for hosting us, and we love our partnerships, and we love that you make it easy on our clients. We happy to meet with any of you guys after, like we said. Introduce you to other VRM clients so they can talk about that experience. And we're happy to do this anytime, and anything you guys need. We're very responsive and love being part of this industry. So, and thank you. You're awesome host.
Oh, thank you. I love it. This is my favorite part of my job. So I love it. And I love working with you guys. If you guys are ever at a conference, more than likely, these guys are going to be there as well. They also have awesome swag. So make sure if you're at a conference, you stop by and see these guys. You won't be disappointed. And it's so wonderful to make a connection. I just saw them when we were at the VRM conference in San Antonio. It was so great to have just a few minutes of FaceTime, because this is normally all we have is email and a webinar every once in a while. And then just as you guys are transitioning, UPM's transitioning out, a lot of you out of your busy season and into probably a short window of an off season, but the holidays are hot on our heels. please do make the time to connect with the guys at Safely and see if there's a way that they can help you build and grow your business. And unless there's any other questions, we're going to go ahead and close this out and just say thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.